May is springtime in Rocky Mountain National Park. It's one of my favorite times of the entire year. After a very long winter, life comes out of hiding and there's a joyfulness to the natural world. Green vegetation begins to overtake the brown, baby animals are born, birds are singing, and we have so many warm and wonderful days. Now the first half of May can still feel a bit brown and cool, but shades of green can be seen in the meadows and on the lower hillsides. Around the middle of May, the aspen trees in Estes Park and in the lower meadows of Rocky begin to put out their bright green leaves. During this second half of the month, it's not uncommon for temperatures in the lower parts of the park to reach the 60s or 70s. However, it's still winter in the higher elevations of the park. Deep snow will cover most of the trails above 9,000 feet. Also, many of the largest snowstorms of the entire year arrive during the month of May, sometimes dropping 1 to 3 feet of snow at a time. This snow can fall not only high up in the mountains, but even down at the lower elevations, such as around Estes Park and Grand Lake. You may have one day where it is almost 70 degrees Fahrenheit and then awaken the next morning to a foot of fresh snow. During this month, you need to be ready for almost anything. Now, if you visit Rocky Mountain National Park during the first half of May, you can expect it to be relatively quiet. The number of visitors at this time of year is growing, but is still nothing like the summer. However, during the second half of the month, as the weather continues to improve and things begin to turn green, visitation picks up significantly. This is especially true during Memorial Weekend, when crowds can be huge. For most of the month of May, you can visit Rocky Mountain National Park with just a park pass, which can be purchased at the entrance station. However, starting around Memorial Day weekend and continuing through mid-October, you will also need to have a timed entry permit, which must be purchased online and in advance from recreation.gov. To learn more about the timed entry permit system, visit the link in the show notes below. Trail Ridge Road is one of America's most spectacular roads, winding through the alpine tundra where it is too cold for trees to grow. It provides incredible views of the surrounding mountains, and it connects the east and west sides of Rocky Mountain National Park. Because of its high elevation and the high winds that buffet this area all winter long, this road closes each October and then typically opens in late May. When exactly the road opens depends on the amount of snow that fell during the winter and also the weather during the month of May. Some years it is open by mid-May, and some years it hasn't opened until sometime in June. But typically the National Park Service tries to get it open for Memorial Day weekend. Now, the exact opening date is never announced until the morning the park is ready to open the road to the public, since the weather often moves in unexpectedly and closes the road. If Trail Ridge Road opens while you are visiting, be aware that it can close at any time and often closes in the evenings due to melting snow during the day, which turns to sheets of ice on the road as soon as the sun sets. It can also close even in the middle of the day if the weather changes and it begins to snow. So if you drive over, keep a close watch on the weather and on the time. You don't want to get stuck on the wrong side, as you'll have an extra 3-hour drive around the mountains to get back to your hotel. Now, one of my favorite activities during the month of May is to hike on Trail Ridge Road before the road is open to traffic. Once the road is open as far as Rainbow Curve, you can then drive up there and park and then walk up the closed portion of the road. This area of road has amazing views with tall snowbanks to enjoy. You can usually walk a few miles up the road before it's closed to pedestrians due to continuing snow plowing operations. May is finally time to lace up the hiking boots and begin to hit the lower trails of Rocky Mountain National Park. Generally, trails below 9,000 feet will be mostly snow-free. Many of them may be a little bit wet or muddy, but if you choose trails that are open to the south, these are generally pretty dry and wonderful. Now, a couple of good trails to hike at this time of year are Lily Lake, Sprague Lake, Adams Falls, the Pool, Black Canyon Trail, East Shore Trail, as well as hikes through meadows such as Beaver Meadows, East Meadow, Moraine Park, Coyote Valley, etc. Now, the trails above 9,000 feet will still have deep snow. Most of the hikes up to the various lakes in the park, including the ones around Bear Lake and Glacier Gorge, are very likely to still have a great deal of snow. In fact, the average amount of snow still on the ground at Bear Lake on May 15th is 34 inches. Because of the warming temperatures, this snow will likely be very wet and soft. So I recommend getting a pair of snowshoes if you want to hike in this area. I'll put a link to the snowshoe rental information in the notes below. Also, I shouldn't have to mention this, but please don't try to walk on the lakes, as the ice is very thin and dangerous at this time of year. A couple of other things to be aware of when hiking at this time of year is that the rivers and streams are going to be filled to the brim with melting snow. They're very dangerous to cross. This is not a time to play next to the streams or to cross the streams without using a bridge. One other note is that if you're hiking in the lower areas when the snow is melted, be aware that this is tick season, so check your body, hair, and clothing carefully after you return from a hike. Consider throwing all of your clothes in a dryer on high temperature for 10 minutes as soon as you get home to ensure that you've rid yourself of any hitchhikers. May is a wonderful time to enjoy the wildlife. At this time of year, the elk are losing their thick coats of fur, revealing these shiny new coats below. Now, the bull elk have lost their old antlers and have these stubby new ones that are beginning to appear. They grow at the rate of nearly an inch a day. At this time of year, the female elk will also be giving birth to lively young ones. Be sure to keep your distance from both the mothers and the young ones. The mothers can be very protective and aggressive at this time of year. You definitely don't want to mess with a mama elk. Almost everywhere you look, the creatures who make their home in Rocky Mountain National Park are coming to life. It's an exciting time, and you can feel the energy and joy of all living things. May is an amazing time of year to visit, especially if you know what to expect. When you come, be sure to stop by my gallery and say hello, and consider picking up a copy of my hiking guide to help you make the most of your time. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see all of you in the next video. To help you prepare for your visit to Rocky Mountain National Park, visit my website, rockymountainnationalpark.com. For hiking guides, calendars, coffee table books, and more, visit rockytrailpress.com. And when you arrive, be sure and stop by my gallery in downtown Estes Park. It's called Images of RMNP.